And I'm wondering if you have any notion or concept in a structured manner in your head around English studies. So I'm quite curious about that. So if you could share about it, that would be interesting.
Yeah, in my head, I feel like it's extremely important to have pronunciation and listening
Mm,
down.
mm,
Especially listening is pretty important. Being
mm,
able to capture sounds. You don't necessarily have to understand,
mm,
but you have to be able to
mm,
hear. And if
mm,
I ask you to write it down, whatever you heard,
mm,
you should be able to do it. Kind of
mm.
listening skill. And I hope people can try Eigo Nodo.
Yeah,
If you try to produce this kind of voice,
yeah,
you are producing the same kind of voice, and it
mm,
gets easier for you to listen and
yeah,
capture.
yeah,
Another thing is it's very important to know what syllable is. So when I was in high school, although I grew up in countryside, I was aware of the importance of syllables because I remember
mm,
telling an American
yeah,
visitor,
yeah.
that was my first conversation with somebody from outside Japan, and she was from North Dakota, I think, or South Dakota, and I told her, because she was
Sorry to cut you off, but I think we need one more coin to extend this. We got 10 more seconds. Hopefully, you
five,
automatically.
four, three, two, one, zero, and we are still on. So,
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
okay.
Okay,
Yeah, I was saying that
yep,
my first
keep
conversation with
going.
the Westerner,
Mm,
I was saying, yeah, in Japan we say Michael Jackson, but no, no, no. Michael Jackson is called Michael Jackson. Okay, so that's the difference between Japanese and English. So you have to learn how to read English by learning what a syllable is. Another good example is McDonaldo. McDonaldo, but it's actually McDonald's.
mm,
It's not 5 syllables, but it's 3. So if you
mm,
learn,
mm,
every time you try to learn words or expressions, you
yeah,
make sure that you are using the correct count of syllables, and then your listening comprehension is easier.
yeah, yeah.
That's my advice. And after that, I think I don't have a strong opinion about how to study. I guess study this, study that. But I think conversation is very important. So you just talk in English and
Mm,
get used to the notion of, I guess, you have to
okay,
get used to the word order of English.
yeah. So what do you
Yeah.
think is the very first milestone that people should set, when getting started on English journey? And what is the very
I
first
think I
process
think
to go
try to
through?
practice your pronunciation. I think.
Pronunciation. So you think
Yeah.
pronunciation is the most important fundamental in your English learning?
I th- I think in terms of priority, or you have to really be able to say things because
Yeah.
yeah. So that's the first thing you want to achieve. Ideally, you don't have to be
Okay.
correct, but as long as you can
Right.
produce this kind of
Mm.
it's not really so much about pronunciation. It's more like hasse.
Mm.
Hatsuon is like different. Australian accent,
Yeah.
American accent, British
Yeah.
accent, but
Yeah.
hasse, the deeper level,
Okay.
it's
Mm.
the same. So if you can kind of practice on resonation, and
Okay.
then you can pick whatever model,
Yeah.
whatever accent you like.
Mm.
If you
Mm.
like Australia, you can just study Australian accent,
Yeah.
American.
Mm.
If you like American movies, dramas, then just to go American.
Okay.
And I feel like you can always kind of change or imitate. It's not like just because you learn American English, you are locked in. You can
Mm.
kind of try different things later. But just choose one and then, yeah, stick with it and then practice.
Mm. Yeah, it's very interesting you mentioned that the way you let the air out of your mouth is the same across all different accents. So, well, people speak with different accents, of course. American English, British English, they sound pretty different. But what you're saying is the way you make the sound, the process of air going through your throat and how you know use your muscles. That's something that exists in common across all different accents. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, across American English, British English, it's the kind of same kind of breathe, use a lot of air, and then push it out, and then as you push out, you speak kind of way, as opposed to Japanese is like the word. I think I would use the word choppy.
Choppy.
Japanese
Yeah.
Japanese is very choppy like this, right? But English is really like resonant. So if you speak English like this, it's harder to communicate. So you gotta go really relax and yeah. That's what I think is very important.
Okay.
And if you do that, you can even speak other languages. You can
Yeah.
apply it to other languages such as French, Spanish. It's the same thing. Did I tell you that I'm learning?
Spanish.
I speak Spanish. I don't really study it, but I study French
Is that
a
a
little
French?
bit, and I'm just practicing conversation because I feel lazy to read or study grammar, but I can just practice speaking, and I feel like just by communicating, I can kind of like figure out grammar myself in my mind. And yeah, that's language exchange probably is another thing that you can do.
Language exchange. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you done any of that kind of stuff?
Language
Speaking
exchange.
with friends intentionally, I mean, to improve your English?
What do
With
you-
somebody who studies Japanese.
Oh, like
So
speaking,
language
speaking.
exchange means,
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I've done that. Like when I
yeah.
was in Japan, I've got a best friend. His name shows. We often study English together at a cafe or at a library when we try to speak in English all the time. So I've done that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is
Yeah.
he like a Japanese or is
He is
who is
well.
he? Is
He's Japanese. Yes. He grew up in
Oh, okay.
Japan. Yeah.
So that's like that's a little different. That's like study partner or something. But what I'm saying is language exchange. For example, I speak with a French guy
Yeah.
every Saturday morning, and then he speaks Japanese half the time. I speak Japanese with him, and half the time I speak French. So we kind of help each other.
Well, actually, I'm not really a big fan of language exchange.
Oh,
Because in language exchange situation, I think there is a tendency people consider each other kind of as a tool to learn a language, in which I don't think there is a really true connection of heart and heart, or like a true kind of friendship or relationship, because the connection is only established because you both want to learn the language that you are exchanging. So I don't like that kind of way of establishing a relation. I'd rather want to get myself connected to someone who has the same interest in something. So, for example, right, accounting. I'm an accountant. There is someone who likes accounting who speaks a different language. What about we get together and then talk about it in one of the languages, one of the two languages that we speak, right? And in which case, I think the establishment of the relationship is not really driven by the language perspective, but rather kind of coming from a different perspective. And I think that way you can kind of better strengthen the relationship. Know what I mean? So I'm not really a big fan of language exchange. I'm not really denying that it's, you know, effective, or I'm not saying language exchange is a bad thing, but it's just that I don't feel like doing it. Right? And of course,
it's
different people
very
have different values.
instrumental. Actually, yeah, language exchange is such an instrumental kind of thing to do. So you're right, and I never thought about the kind of stuff when I was in college. When I was actually a college student, I made friends from other places, other countries. So yeah, I know, I see what you mean. But more recently, because I'm busy, I've been working with a French guy, and every week. And actually, after this, I think I'm planning to talk with him again. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think
But
as long as it's like mutually beneficial and reciprocal, I think it's worthwhile doing it. Yeah, it's just a matter of
yeah.
preference, I think.
But I like your idea of relationship, first, and then everything else may follow. I
Yeah.
like that idea. Yeah, yeah. I think it's a good. People set goals, and I was speaking with somebody else. Her name is Aiko. I told her that maybe you set a goal like this. Okay, I want to make friends. You know, that's a good goal. Instead of saying I'm going to pass the test. I mean, that's a good one too. But
Okay.
I think as one of the good, valid goals of learning a language, you say, okay, I'm going to make friends, and then
My
try
friends. Okay.
to learn. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think that's what I did when I was in college, because there were lots of international students on campus. I try to speak with them every day, actually. And even to this day, I have, this was like a long, long time ago, before the internet. To this day, I still have a connection with my friends from back then on Facebook. And yeah.
Okay.
And I was able to meet some of them too.
My friends.
My
What's it called?
one of my friends from America, David. I think I'll be seeing him in 2 weeks, because I'm traveling to Atlanta, Georgia, for my work, and he lives there. And it's interesting. He's married to a Japanese lady, and they have 2 kids. He's American, but he speaks Japanese at home, so it's really interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just to do a quick recap, you think pronunciation is the most important? That's the imperative. That
I
English
think it's most
beginners.
efficient. Yeah, because you don't want to learn a word in a wrong way, and 5 years later you're fixing it. I think you want to get the right pronunciation first. And also for me, when I was
Okay.
in middle school, I was learning English. For me, learning a word means, or should I say meant, learning the correct sound. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Sometimes even more recently, like, I realized some words I learned them wrong. For example, do you know how to read diamondo in Japanese? Okay. And I thought it is like diamond, but it's actually diamond.
Yeah, it's diamond.
It's 2 syllables.
Yeah.
Or when you make a call to somebody, you say diaru, right? Diaru.
Dial.
In English, it's dial, just 1 syllable. Instead of dial, it's actually dial. I think there's a soap called dial. Right? Correct? Yeah. So sometimes I realize, I learned this wrong. But if you learn words from the beginning correctly, it's easier.
Yeah, I think that is true. And even being a person who says, well, vocabulary is pretty important, I think there is something that I can let your thought in my methodology as well, which is to always make it a rule to pronounce words that you are memorizing. So I think there is, I think people in Japan tend to memorize vocabulary without really pronouncing those words, without really even looking at phonetics. I think you are in a position not to use phonetics, but I think, well, at the minimum, I think being aware that there is a key element in the phonetics or the sound of the words is quite critical in English learning. Because like after smashing all those words with wrong pronunciation, like I think getting in trouble in actual communication because you don't understand what people are saying, even if the words being used in the conversation are the words that you have memorized. So yeah, I think you are making a pretty important point in English learning.
Yeah, I want to add one more thing. I think many of listeners have bought your book, Distinction, and my advice is that you can just clap your hands like this. If you want to learn the word distinction, you go distinction, distinction. So you every time you learn something, you make sure you know the count, how many syllables there is. Yeah.
That's that's an interesting point. So
Yeah.
I think it was quite helpful.
Hey, somebody.
Yep.
Somebody made a comment.
Yep.
Van Gogh, and she's quoting us something from Nelson Mandela. If you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's true. That's very true.
Yeah.
The other day, I was talking to a Japanese on secondment here in Australia, and his English level is like, I think, intermediate. He was telling me like when he gets told off by his manager, he doesn't feel as much as he does in Japanese. So he was taking it quite positively, but I think that's a flip side of the quote.
You use the expression told off. Does that mean 叱られた?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Why is
then
that?
He
Why
says,
is that? Yeah.
Oh, I was curious.
Yeah. So
told off.
Yeah, he was told off by his manager, like, why didn't you do this and do that? Like, why didn't you tell me in advance? Or like, you should have done this and done that. And he was telling me like other words using the situation was pretty harsh, but he was like, didn't feel anything because it was in the second language. He understood what he meant and he understood why he got pretty pissed off, but he didn't feel as bad as he would in Japanese.
That's not a good thing. I think you have to be able to feel, whatever you're hearing.
Well,
because
that's
what if somebody's trying to tell? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a silver lining to it.
Yeah. What if somebody's trying to communicate with you and he or she wants to communicate something from his or her heart, and then maybe you may not be able to really feel it if you don't feel it, if you're not able to feel the message. I think that often it's not just about knowing what is said, but feeling, the speaker's feeling is important. And you do that by listening to the quality of voice. For example, you know what? This is a good advice for everybody. I often say, try to laugh at the same time when you communicate like this. It's easier, and you can kind of communicate your feeling better. Like laugh and speak at the same time. Or I say, use the laughing voice. こんな感じで、笑った声で喋ると感情がよく伝わりますね。
Yeah. Facial expressions as well.
Yeah.
You gotta set the tone first by kind of, making the right facial expression and also making the right quality of sound. I think at the beginning of the conversation to just set the right tone for the situation, I think.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good point, because when I meet people, I try to speak so that I can kind of tell them, I'm a friendly person, I'm a good person, and I just establish that first by maybe chit-chatting. How's the weather and how are you? Kind of small thing. I think we often do that in America, even for business communication, where you kind of say things like, hey, how's the weather over there? Oh, it's getting cold. And then you kind of realize, you just do that to set the tone, the right tone.
Yeah, Yusuke on timeline, I think has made really good comment. Icebreak is a word it's often used to describe that sort of kind of starting conversation, just to open up a conversation. You icebreak it, right? You use it as an icebreaker. I think that's a really good vocabulary to use. to describe the situation. Yes, like you said, we often start off with how's the weather today over there, like on a Skype call, or if it's FaceTime meeting. I think you say like how was your trip to Japan? Like if you had known that that person had been to Japan, or like how was your holiday? Like how was the weekend? Like have you been keeping busy because of XYZ? Like you do the ice breaking, like a little ice breaking conversation to kind of open up a conversation right before getting to or cutting to the chase. Um,
Yeah. Just simple things is okay. You don't have to say anything complicated. In my case, I try to just say, "Hey, how are you? How are you?
mm, mm,
How are you? Good, good. Did you have good weekends?" Kind of stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that style of beginning a conversation has already like naturally happening in the way I communicate with Japanese people in Japanese. But
Mm-hmm.
as they are not really used to it, I think they might be feeling a bit awkward when I start with like この前の旅行どうだったとか、なんかその before cutting to the chase, I start with like that kind of conversation. But I think in Japanese or in a Japanese culture, I don't think that's pretty common. I don't ちょっとよくわかんないんですけどね。whether or not it's common or not. どう思いますか？その日本語で言うときに例えば今日こういうことについて電話しますねって言って電話して、でその電話の中でこの前なんかどこどこ行かれたんですよねとかそういうところから入るっていうのを that's what I often do, but it feels like somebody sometimes people are feeling awkward
し
when they
しないかもね。
しないかもしれないですね。そう、その辺の it's a little hard to draw the line there as I've never worked in Japan, but I sometimes have to communicate with like people from Japan. But I do like everything in Japanese, but I think in a Western way that people are not really used to. That might make the atmosphere a little awkward. So I think that's what I have to a bit like watch out for.
I kind of speak with Japanese people that way, I think. Yeah. I think in Japan there are different traditions or different people. Like if they're from countryside, they feel more relaxed, and if they're from big cities, maybe they may not as relaxed. They may not be as relaxed as other people, and usually I can tell by just talking to them, and if they enjoy, I can tell if they enjoy a little bit of like chit-chat conversation. I just do that with them. I feel like in Japan there are two types of people. In America it's just one type of people, I feel like. In Japan there are people who are very, very stiff and rigid. And there are people who are very relaxed. So I try to kind of...
Like me.
How do you say?
Like me.
You are in between.
I'm in between. Then there are three types of people.
Yeah. Three types of people, yeah.
Very relaxed.
Yeah.
Stubborn, in between.
Yeah.
I think I'm very relaxed.
How do you say? Yeah.
That is why I chose Australia and came over here. I didn't think I would be able to fit myself in the Japanese way of working, doing things.
Yeah. 第一印象っていうのをね、それに合わせるっていうかね、どのように合わせてるんだろう。ちょっとこう敬語とかをものすごいちゃんと使う人、ね、people who really use 敬語 from the beginning, and they kind of remain a little bit formal, right? Then I think I also try to be a little bit formal, but also try to kind of warm them up by being kind of extra friendly. If they are from the beginning friendly, then it's just the same. I just try to be friendly with them. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yuna-san says, 英語のだ. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Ice breaking is very important.
Yeah, it's very surely
ちょ
important.
ちょっと日本語で言っていいですかね。
もち
私ですね、ボランティアをしておりまして、近所で、
偉い。
認知症の老人が集まるデイケアセンターにね、
素晴らしいじゃないですか。
行って一緒に歌を歌うんですけど、
うん、
そこに台湾のおばあさんが2人いるんですよ、台湾のご出身の、はい、でも一人の人がもうかなり地方症が進んでいるのであんまりペラペラ喋れないんですけども、日本語は喋るんですよ。
そうですか。
でものすごい挨拶を楽しむんですね、なんか元気ですかって言ったらものすごいこう嬉しそうに元気ですっていう感じでおっしゃって、僕はその時に思ったんですが、なんか僕たち英語を勉強してて、難しいことを言うとか、こう知的なことを言うっていうことに流れがちですけども、結構シンプルな挨拶っていうのもなんか心と心をつなげるのに大切だなと思って、だから僕は今までの態度をですね、反省しまして、その人と喋るときに、ね、How are you? って言ったときにもう心から言うようにしてるんですけどね、挨拶っていうのは結構大切だなと。You know, I don't know in Hokkaido, but in Hiroshima, we have this tradition of 挨拶運動 at Japanese, how do you say, elementary schools. 私の田舎ではですね、挨拶運動っていうのがすごいあってね、小学校でね、とにかく挨拶しましょうってね、だからちょっと強制的なとこがあるので、なんでこんなことしなきゃいけないのと思ってたんですけども、この年になりまして、台湾のおばあさんが日本語しか喋れないんですよ。なるほど。そしたらね、こんにちはとか、ありがとうとか、そういうのがものすごくビンビン伝わるね、心が。他のこと言わなくても。それでね、やっぱ挨拶っていうのの大切さを思いまして、でアイスブレイカーっていうことですけども、だから、Hi, how are you? ね、元気ですかっていうのも心から言うというね、心がけていることというか、something that I try to do. And I think many of the listeners, right, they are worried about, oh, okay, I have to use difficult words or, you know, I gotta do something fancy when I speak English. But やっぱり人間と人間なので、まずはね、挨拶っていうかね、心から言うみたいな、それでなんか相手に対する印象が違うんじゃないかと思いますけどね。Somebody says 広島は今でも挨拶運動ありますよね。おはようございますってかって言うんですけどね。言わないですか In Hokkaido, you don't do that kind of stuff at school?
まあ聞いたことはないですよね。
If you go to schools in Hiroshima, we have a big banner on the wall that says 挨拶をしましょう。
Okay. Yeah, I think like every school has that kind of banner, but I don't know if that's something that you're defining, that you have defined as 挨拶運動. But I think every school will teach your kids that like 挨拶 is pretty important. But I don't think it's framed as 挨拶運動. It's just part of the like education structure.
Okay. I have a dog and I walk around in my neighborhood and I greet my neighbors and I say, hi, how are you? You know? And like, did you just move in? Something small. And then like, yeah, it's pretty good to develop a kickstart relationship, you know.
No,
so let me read some comments.
Deep and meaningful stuff to talk about.
What kind of greeting, if you meet somebody the first time in English, what would you say yourself in Australia?
In Australia, the very first time to meet a person?
Yeah.
Well, just nice to meet you. How's it going, mate?
Okay.
How are you going, mate? How are you going, mate? Hey, good eye, nice to meet you. How's it going, mate?
Good day, Mike.
Well, depends.
Good day, Mike. How are
Yeah,
you? Yeah.
actually, it really depends upon the type of person that you're speaking to, right? Like if the guy's like
Yeah.
really Aussie and like white, then I think the way I would behave to the person would be different. Whereas if I'm speaking to for example ABC like Australian born Chinese, I think the way I would interact with a person would be like slightly different because like what's interesting is well, the way people behave is different by the way they grew up, and that's often
Mm-hmm.
determined by their race. I'm not being a racist, but like for example, like Asian Australians are like pretty different from many perspectives. Um, Mainly because they grow up in a family of um, they grow up in a family where like a different culture is reflected in a number of things like food or how parents teach and you know who you get along with and who are your relatives and
Mm-hmm.
like all those different factors change the way people behave even if they grow up in exactly the same country. So I see a lot of times Asians going out with Asians and white people getting along with white people. Not always the case, but I think there are some elements uh, of race or kind of cultural background in it, like when it comes to how people behave and how people establish a relationship. So I think that is often reflected in the way people greet with each other as well. White way is different from
My
Asian
neighbor
way.
is
That's for
my
sure.
neighbor is Korean, and I say 안녕하세요. Yeah.
Do you?
They
Did
respond really well. Yeah.
okay.
They can. Sometimes they respond back to me like "konnichiwa" in
Okay.
Japanese too. Yeah.
As long as it doesn't
It's
sound a little sarcastic or racist, that's okay.
yeah. 안녕하세요.
Mm.
안녕. My upstairs neighbor is from Iran.
Mm.
Oh, there's an old lady from Nicaragua, and I greet her in Spanish, and very interesting. She probably is like 80 years old, but when she was young in Nicaragua, she told her parents that I want to get married, but she was only 16 or something, and her family got so upset that they sent her to Japan when she was 16 because they didn't want her to get married at so young as a punishment. But she ended up having a good time in Japan, and she was telling me how things were in Japan. Isn't that weird? It's such an interesting story. Yeah. So every time I meet her around the post area, mailbox,
Yeah.
I greet her.
Okay. So now she can take the punishment like on the bright side.
Yeah,
Okay.
she really enjoyed. This was like 60, 70 years ago.
Oh wow, a long time ago.
I think her relative worked for embassy or something in Japan of Nicaragua.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's been
Yeah.
about 1.5 hours now, and I think we should probably wrap up.
It was good to talk with you.
Yeah, it was
For
not.
me this morning.
Yeah, nice talking to you.
Yeah, it's getting late for you. What time is it there? Is it like
11, 18 past
okay.
11.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you leave, make sure to save the video.
Okay. So there will be a pop-up message saying like, do you want to save this or not? And I just need to click on yes, right? And then it'll be saved. And can it download it easily?
Do not press no.
Yeah, I'll be careful.
Yeah.
I'll be careful. Because otherwise we would have to do this live streaming again.
Yeah.
That's the most critical part of it, right? Save it, upload it onto
Yes.
YouTube. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
bring that on. Okay.
Click yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you
Okay,
for
thank you very much for taking time
this
today.
opportunity. All right.
Yeah, I really enjoyed
Thank
it.
you very
Thank
much.
you. I'll talk to you soon.
Me too. Thank you.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.